Imagine it's 2041. A Tuesday morning. Sarah wakes up at 8 a.m., makes coffee, and opens her laptop. Not to start work. Work doesn't start. It just doesn't exist anymore. Not for her. Not for most people she knows. She checks her universal basic income deposit. It's there. It's always there. She has everything she needs. Food. Shelter. Entertainment. Time. Infinite time. And somehow, that's the most terrifying thing she's ever experienced. Here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough: what happens to humanity when we no longer need to work to survive? We talk about automation like it's a distant threat. Something for economists to argue about at conferences. Something that will affect other people. Factory workers. Truck drivers. Call center employees. But what if the entire premise is wrong? What if this isn't about which jobs disappear? What if this is about what happens to us, to human identity itself, when the thing that has defined our species for 10,000 years is quietly, permanently removed? This isn't a future problem. It's already happening. And the generation alive today may be the last one that ever truly works. Right now, across every industry, a quiet replacement is underway. McKinsey estimates that up to 30% of work tasks could be automated by 2030. Goldman Sachs put the number of jobs exposed to AI disruption at 300 million globally. Lawyers, radiologists, coders, writers, accountants, roles that took decades of education to enter are being compressed into software that runs for pennies per hour. But then something changed. It wasn't just the volume of automation. It was the speed. For most of history, technology replaced physical labor and created new cognitive labor. The loom replaced weavers. But it created designers, factory managers, and merchants. The pattern always held. Until now. AI doesn't just replace hands. It replaces minds. And for the first time in human history, we don't have a clear answer for what comes next. In the year 2038, picture a man named James. He's 34. He used to be a financial analyst in London. Good salary. Corner desk. 6 years at the same firm. Then one morning, his manager called him into a room and explained, very politely, that a new system could do in 4 seconds what James did in 4 days, and it never asked for annual leave. James got a generous severance. Then UBI. Then, nothing to do. At first it felt like a holiday. He traveled. He cooked. He read. But something strange happened after month 6. He started forgetting what he was good at. He started struggling to explain to people, and to himself, who he actually was. Because for his entire adult life, when someone asked James, "What do you do?" that was the answer to who he was. And now he had no answer. This is where the story becomes unsettling. Work was never just about money. Anthropologists and psychologists have known this for decades. Work provides structure. It provides community. It provides what psychologist Abraham Maslow called esteem, the sense that you are contributing something real to the world. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, argued that the deepest human need is not pleasure or power. It's meaning. And for most of human civilization, work was our primary source of it. Strip that away, even replace it with comfort, and something breaks. Studies from early UBI trials in Finland and Canada already showed something unexpected. Recipients didn't become lazy. Most of them reported improved well-being initially. But long-term, social isolation crept in. Purpose became harder to find. The question, "Why am I here?" became louder, not quieter. The real problem was still ahead. Picture this. It's 2045. A young woman named Ida, 22 years old, has never held a job. Not because she didn't try. Because there was nothing to try for. She graduated from a university that still existed mostly out of tradition. Her degree was in architecture. But by the time she finished, AI was designing buildings faster and more efficiently than any human firm could compete with. She doesn't feel poor. She doesn't feel hungry. She feels invisible. Like a character in a story who has no role to play. She volunteers occasionally. She creates digital art. She tends a small community garden with neighbors she barely knows. But at night, she stares at the ceiling and wonders, what was I made for? What does it mean to have an identity in a world that doesn't need you to do anything? For centuries, we told ourselves a story. Work hard. Earn your place. Leave something behind. That story gave people a reason to get up in the morning. It shaped families, cultures, and nations. It gave fathers a sense of dignity. It gave mothers a sense of sacrifice that mattered. It gave young people a horizon to walk toward. What happens to relationships when that story ends? What happens to parents who can't teach their children the value of labor because labor has no value left? What happens to communities built around industries that no longer exist? What happens to us? On an ordinary morning in 2050, a 70-year-old man named David sits in his apartment. He's one of the last people alive who remembers a full working life. He worked for 40 years. He misses it. Not the stress. Not the commute. He misses the feeling of being necessary. He watches his grandchildren, free and comfortable and educated and entirely adrift. And he wonders whether he was lucky, or whether the generation that worked was the last generation that ever truly lived. But here is the twist nobody sees coming. The assumption is that we are the ones losing work. But look closer. What if work isn't disappearing? What if it's transforming, moving from the economy into the soul? Throughout history, the most meaningful human activities were never the ones we got paid for. Raising a child. Caring for an elder. Building a community. Making art. Growing food. Teaching a neighbor. These were always the things that mattered most. And they were almost never compensated. What if the automation economy, despite all its disruption, is finally forcing us to value what we always undervalued? The real question isn't whether machines will take our jobs. They will. The real question is what we decide to do with the freedom that creates. Because freedom without meaning isn't liberation. It's a different kind of prison. Every civilization that ever collapsed didn't fall because people lacked resources. It fell because people lost the sense that they were part of something worth building. We are standing at the edge of the most abundant era in human history. And the danger isn't poverty. It's purposelessness. Back to Sarah. It's evening now. She closes the laptop. She walks to the community workshop on her street, a place that didn't exist 10 years ago. She's learning woodworking. Not to sell anything. Just to make something with her hands. Something real. She looks down at the piece of wood taking shape under her palms, and for the first time in months, something inside her quiets. Maybe this is what work always was. Not the transaction. The creation. We are the last generation that will ever have to work. And we have a choice that no generation before us ever had, to figure out what we want to build instead. But here's what keeps me awake at night. What if we're not ready?